feel like Gordon Bombay would have taken his career to even further heights.
Everything's flashy, everything's cocaine, everything's
Fun.
Open wide for some soccer.
I don't care what you think about what your personal thoughts are at home. I care that you hate the Cowboys.
Call this college rule.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. I'm Chris. This is Dom. Just a couple of comics right here in Tucson. We record down here in Tucson at Engle Studio. Every single episode has been recorded here. Just please give our social medias a follow, Sports Experience, on Instagram and YouTube. And without any further French words, what are we talking about today? We're getting right back into it, right on the gridiron.
Yes, we are. We've got a Heisman Trophy winner.
That's right.
We've got an NFL Hall of Famer.
That's right.
And we've got probably one of the most underrated players of his entire era at his particular position. Who we got, Chris?
We got Timmy Brown, old touchdown Timmy. We got Tim Brown.
Timmy Brown. Timothy Donnell Brown, born July 22nd, 1966 in San Antonio, Texas, but grew up in East Dallas.
Yep.
Saw during, his Hall of Fame speech, said when he was 6 months old, he had an infection where the doctors thought he might have to have a tracheotomy. And his mom said when he didn't need one and got better, this kid's something special.
Yes.
Yes.
I did see that his brother, that's like where he started to play football because he said he didn't really play organized sports.
No, he had like 5 siblings and he didn't play organized sports, which is weird.
Well, and I saw this in an interview that because there was like confusion with that. He said, well, I grew up in a very religious household. And even when I got to high school, my mom said I couldn't play football because in their religious group, they felt like sports could take over the majority of their life where that should be dedicated to God. So she got him into being in the band because she was like, well, there's music in church.
All I'm saying is when I read that, that is so the water boy. In so many respects. You can't have Bobby Boucher playing the fucking glockenspiel.
I was thinking that exact same thing where he was just like, no, my boy cannot be on that field. Because it is such a weird-ass thing. He said, especially because his brother and him played football like catch. This is what he said. This is why he was so good at the age of like 6, but he was older, so he would throw it as hard as he could.
Yeah.
Like a brother. But that's what he said. He was just like, well, that's why my hands were so good because I was catching like.
And he learned to juke because they played this game where they'd throw the ball in the air and you'd have to run on the grass. But if you ran towards the sideline where the pavement was, you did not want to get tackled there. Yep. So you had to make
make a move. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. It was like they grew up almost doing fundamental drills of football, but never played organized football.
It's like playing corn cobs in Oklahoma, Chris.
I love it.
Hitting in the barn.
I love it.
Hitting in the barn. So he sits out his freshman year at Woodrow Wilson High School in Dallas because he's playing in the band.
Plays percussion.
This one time at band camp, I said, screw it, I'm going to go play football instead. Even though he doesn't tell his mom that he joined the football team, she eventually relents and lets him play. But the team that he joins is god-awful.
Well, I thought it was kind of interesting because it's a small Texas town, and he ended up playing.
It's in Dallas.
Well, I mean, it's not a. I didn't mean small. I mean a football-centric town.
Yes,
that's what I meant. So,
yeah.
like the high school football team is very like it's not like other places where the high school football team is like a serious issue or a serious thing. And he played one game as a sophomore because he was telling her he was going to band camp.
This is great.
But he's telling her he was still in the band, and then they actually wrote up a little blurb about him in the paper saying, sophomore phenom, watch out for this kid, and then said his name. Neighbor comes over and says, oh, man, we're going to go see your son. You're going to go see your son next game, right? And she was like, what are you talking about? I'm just saying, like.
I believe the coach went to his house one night for dinner.
That's right. All right, here we go.
He told him what mama don't know, don't hurt her, because his mom told him not to get a tattoo of Roy Orbison.
That's right. And guess what?
He got a tattoo of Roy Orbison, and so did Tim Brown, in a metaphorical sense, by suiting up for Woodrow Wilson.
He definitely convinced her with, and I feel like there was that where people were like, "Oh, he is something special on the football field."
Yeah, no, I mean, I think if he was crappy, she would have just said, "No, this isn't."
Yes, seriously.
Oh, you're generational. You're this entire team because in high school. He played quarterback. He played running back. He played fullback, wide receiver, flanker, kick returner, punt returner, quarterback, safety. He was all over the field. His
Yep.
coach had, did you see the quote that his coach had? He said, if Tim Brown didn't get on the bus, I didn't get on the bus.
Oh, that's pretty good. Even though they were horrible.
425-1. But he was so good that everyone came out to watch him. Like,
Yes. So that was the thing that obviously in this town where he was kind of like a star in that he, like you were saying, he literally played every position, dominated at every position. I saw something about, because he was getting scouted, but it was kind of like a Southwest scouting at that time. It wasn't a national scout, or not even Southwest, but like Midwest.
yeah, but I mean, you have to understand, I did highlight this one part. His average touchdown in high school was almost 46 yards a clip.
And they were losing.
They were losing. They were losing. He scored every 12th time he touched the ball.
Well, the thing that he said, he brought up the story. He said, I think it was actually the tie. He said there was a Notre Dame recruit there
this is great.
watching somebody else.
Yeah.
And he ends up scoring 4 touchdowns, which he said he had never done before or after. Just, he just was lighting it up. And the guy went back and he was just like, oh, no, we have to bring this guy to Notre Dame, which that was the thing. Because a lot of the time, some of these schools don't look at these really horrible teams. Yeah. They just overlook this kid who's like literally a generational talent.
Shall I watch them lose by 60 again this week?
Exactly. So he literally was going to watch this other kid who was on a better team that was winning. And then he saw this guy and he was just like, oh my God. So
he is the team.
Yes.
You can't
He
play
is the team.
1
Yes.
versus 11.
Yes.
Did want to add, though, in high school, ran 400 meters in track in
Yes.
Dallas, which we described in our Michael Johnson episode. I did not know this until then. Very competitive. So
extremely.
Timmy had a lot of speed to
and
his game.
he had a good long jump.
Yeah.
So that's what throughout his career, that's what they were saying. He was just like, oh yeah, he's the most athletic guy on our whole team.
So he's getting all sorts of offers to go to
Yep.
college. And in 1984, he's thinking, you know what? It's nice because lots of teams want me, but I want to stay home in Dallas. I want
Yes.
to go to SMU. And SMU sends Eric Dickerson out there to recruit him. I'm sure you read this story, which is fantastic, talking about all the cars and money and surrounded by a certain booster who's just bankrolling the entire program.
Well, it's and we see this sometimes where they think they're going to go and be like, isn't this awesome? And it's literally the opposite, where they're just like, oh no, I'm an extremely religious man from a very conservative family, and you're literally telling me every reason why I'm not going to go to SMU.
It's like the Abner Hayes AFL thing with drunk Bobby Lane.
Just shows up on the porch just hammered. They're just like, sir, we are Christians here. Yeah.
But anyway, he wanted to go to SMU because he wanted the car. And can you blame him?
No, that's
like you want the car.
But that's what I mean, where his mom kind of steps in.
Yeah, well, his mom and his older brother, because what happens is his high school principal, who ran the shot clock for SMU basketball games.
That's awesome.
Make sure that he goes with an SMU booster to the university to have dinner with the head coach, which for student athletes is not allowed. I know it sounds ridiculous.
This is the 80s, sir.
They hid him when some people came by, the news crew, to just talk about SMU football.
Yeah,
so they hid him in a closet and drove him home. And his brother was super salty and his mom was super salty.
I'm sure, because that's obvious shady stuff.
Oh, yeah, totally.
That's what I mean, where it sucks that when you're a kid and you're just like, I would love a car right now. Because it is that tempting.
A 280Z.
Especially when you're going to every other college. It's just like, no, you're playing for free. You're a student athlete. It's so ridiculous.
Oh, that's what you call them now.
I did see that, because obviously his mom and his brother were like, you can't go there. That's just going to mess up your whole career. But I did see his mom was just like, I want him to go to a religious school that's viable in football, but Notre Dame is 1,200 miles away.
Yeah.
And she was just like, that's just not. But to their credit, he did go to, because who knows what he would have been at a different college.
They had talked about, had he gone to SMU, he would have been there for the death penalty seasons.
Yeah.
Where he would have had to transfer eventually somewhere else because football was erased.
Was it his freshman or sophomore season that they...
I think it was after his sophomore season when it went down.
So that would have really screwed him.
Would have really... And I mean, don't get me wrong, Notre Dame, his first couple of years, he kind of struggles.
Yes.
For things that aren't entirely his fault, but he has some faith put in him later.
Yep.
By a man who looks like the Keebler elf. But let's go into 1984 for the Fighting Irish. He sets a freshman, and mind you, my dad, Notre Dame alum, had nothing nice to say about the Jerry Faust era. I think douchebag was the kindest thing he ever called the gentleman.
All right. That's legit.
This is when Notre Dame is pretty crappy.
Yeah,
pretty crappy and mediocre when
Yes.
Timmy gets there, which is unfortunate. But he sets a freshman record, 28 catches in 84. But he's kind of struggling to see the field both his freshman and sophomore years.
Well, he's definitely not in the any kind of rotation in like the first bits of being a receiver.
His first play in college, he fumbles on a
Yes.
kickoff return.
Yes.
And they lose the game to Purdue.
I thought something he said about that. He said, my first ever play, fumble the ball. I thought I had it. I turned around because the guy runs past me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, no, there's the ball. And he said he was talking to his brother, and he just goes, at that moment, I didn't know if this was for me. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't know if I was going to continue playing or, like, do you know what I mean? Because he said this for a long time. He said, I didn't have confidence in my game. I came from a losing school.
Yep.
I was just, like, the best player. And then I kept thinking almost like it was, like, imposter syndrome where they're just, like, kept being like, ha, all right, we were just kidding.
Yeah, no, like at the very end, it's like someone played a trick on me.
Yes, yes. So that was rough for him, especially killed his confidence. But also the coaching staff didn't put confidence in
The
him.
coaching staff was pretty incompetent. Like, they're not starting him every game.
Yep.
And by 85, team has a losing record. Faust is axed, even though Timmy, 25 catches, almost 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, a kick return, and a rush TD. So, I mean, he's the best player on the field. So in 86, but, like, they're not using him.
But they're not using him.
Lou Holtz comes in 86, and he said, by the second day of practice, this is the best player in college football, number 1. He'd even joked, he's like, my wife would have known Tim Brown was good. You could just see it.
Well, I thought that's literally because obviously he gets like 2 practices in. He comes out, and I think he even said he was just like, so the press is like, is there anything that stands out?
Yep.
And he's just like, well, I mean, Tim Brown might be like the best athlete, maybe football player. And you're just like, oh, okay. And then again, he thought he was playing kind of like a trick on him. He was just like, we're going to pass you the ball so much. But then, I don't know if you saw this, Holtz was just like, hey, why weren't they playing you?
Yeah.
So he thought
He thought he was like a problem, or like he couldn't
Anything.
catch, like the kid in Little Giants.
he was just like, he went through so many things. He's just like, you're academically, I see you're fine with that.
You're gonna get a degree.
Yeah. Do you get the yips? And he's just like, I don't even know what that is. Like, he like literally like went down this line of shit, and he's just like, so they were just not using you? And he's just like, yes, sir.
Are there shallow graves in the South Bend area where you've been burying hookers? It's okay,
Exactly.
Tim. Just tell us.
Tell me, and we'll start you.
We'll start you. Just you got to be honest. Oh, Jerry Faust is okay. I buy that. That's why they hired me, right?
But that's kind of like what some coaching staffs, unfortunately, the incompetence where another one comes in and they're just like, oh, you're the best player by far.
Oh, honey, no.
Oh, honey.
So in '86, although they finished 5-6, they're completely turned around. Timmy
Yep.
has a great year: 45 catches, 910 yards, 5 touchdowns, 254 yards rushing,
Yeah.
2 touchdowns, 2 kick returns. And here's the thing: what Holtz did, which is really smart, because the team is not particularly great.
Mm-hmm.
He used him at every skill position on that offense outside of basically quarterback.
Yeah.
Like both receivers, both running back spots, have him in motion, anything just to get the ball in his hands because he's the best player.
Yes. Seriously.
87, what more can you say about his senior year in college, Chris? I mean,
Well, 34 passes, 846 yards, 34 punt returns for 400 yards. And like you were saying, they
2 in the same game against Michigan State.
Yep.
That was electric, man. That was electric.
But they used him in every opportunity they could. That was what the changeover was, that from obviously his sophomore year, he was almost just kind of like a bench player,
Yeah.
into becoming literally a guy you're just like, should we put him on defense?
Yeah, right.
Like that's how electric he was.
So our quarterbacks aren't good. You just find a way to get him the ball. Find a way to get him the ball.
This is a later quote, but I'm just saying this, where Tim Brown proved throughout his entire career that he didn't need a good quarterback because he both had good, bad, old,
Oh,
new.
he had the whole.
It's such a great, and
man.
you're just like, oh yeah, he really is a unbelievable receiver with whoever is slinging it. It doesn't matter.
So your arm's attached to your body, right? You know what a spiral is? Great. Just throw it to me.
Just throw it.
Just throw it to me.
You know what? Just throw it up.
I'll get you 1,000 yards. Just throw it. So anyway, Notre Dame, they end up going to the Cotton Bowl that year and losing. But most importantly for Tim, he wins the 1987 Heisman Trophy. Not only was that important, he's the first wide receiver to do it, and the only one up until a few years ago with Devonta Smith to win it.
Yep.
Which is pretty damn incredible.
And actually, he came. I don't know if we said this earlier, but he went to Woodrow Wilson High.
Yes, good
and
spider web.
And the high school is the only public school to ever have 2 Heisman Trophy winners. And the guy was like
Davey O'Brien.
Davey O'Brien in 1939, and then we got
Timmy Brown.
1987
1987.
and 87.
I guess Davies teams are a little bit better than 4-25-1.
But the fact that he was such an amazing receiver in these last 2 years, because he was all American, obviously, for those 2, and then that he almost was doubting being a football player in his first 2.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what's so crazy.
That had to be depressing, though. You go to Notre Dame after the good seasons, and
Yes.
it's cold, and you're incompetently led, and the team sucks around. Well, not necessarily sucks, but it's just like this is so removed from 10 years before and then 10 years after. Because they win the national championship after he
leaves.
Year, yeah.
Yes, he really is there. And just like high school, where he really has just been on these horrible teams back to back to back, even though his senior year was a good year.
won 8 games.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
shoot.
But still, that's not,
No, it's not tremendous. So, but what do you do if you're 6 foot tall, 193 pounds, you run a sub 4.40, and you can play any receiver or even backfield position?
Yep.
You're going high in the draft. So in the 88 draft, he's picked up by the then Los Angeles Raiders at 6 overall.
That's true.
You know who else is a wide receiver picked in this draft? Sterling Sharp.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they were.
Nice.
I think they were back to back. I'm not sure, but yeah, same draft. He's talked about how lucky he was though to go to the Raiders because of all the veteran players they had and all the veteran wide receivers. Because mind you, at Notre Dame, he's not playing wide receiver the whole time.
No, yeah.
Their offense is not an advanced passing offense. You may be athletic as but you got to learn how to play. And he's talked about that, how important it was to be able to learn how to play the position at his own kind of pace. So in 88, what does he go out and do, Chris? Just makes the Pro Bowl as a kick returner.
I was just going to say, and he proves how great he is as a kick returner. Like you were saying, he almost needs to learn how to become like a slot receiver, because he does become this like amazing receiver. First season, he might not be that, but he still shows how great he is.
His first touch in the NFL,
Yep.
unlike college,
That's
97-yard.
That's probably one of the best, especially because his first touch in college was a fumble.
It's just like, oh, this is so much better.
Yep.
He led
It's like Happy Gilmore. I'm just going to try and make it in the hole every single time.
Forget putting. Forget a 3rd and 6 slant.
That's a good idea.
He led the NFL that year in kick returns, yards per kick return, and had over 444 punt return yards, in addition to 725 receiving yards and 5 touchdowns, and that was a rookie record for most combined yards in a season.
So he is obviously, like, if you're looking at, like, a draft, and you're like, oh, yeah, he is definitely a worth pick. Like, going 6 is, like, kind of obvious. You know what I mean? So, like, he's setting up to be this amazing, versatile player. Season 2 rolls around.
No.
And it's such a shitty thing
terrible.
that always happens. He gets a horrible injury.
MCL and PCL injury in the opener of 89.
When they were talking about it, they said they had never seen the PCL so messed up with the other injuries.
Oh, really?
And because this was kind of like, 89.
We're not in the modern times
So
yet.
this is literally, yes. And like they were talking about it, they were just like, yeah, I mean, we really hope it's going to heal successfully. And he was talking about it because they were just like, we're not saying it's not. We're just saying we don't know.
Yeah.
And like he was just like, that's scary.
The last thing you want from your doctor is not a definitive answer.
Just like, wow, I've never seen that before.
Really? What does it look? I don't know. I've never seen it.
I've never seen those two ruptured at the same time.
Am I okay?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Maybe.
90, 91, and 92, he was used more on special teams and then as a third receiver. Al Davis kind of jabbed him with that best third down receiver.
I was going to say, Al Davis says, hey, I want you to be just a third down receiver and a punt returner. And he said that was great for the next year because he did need time to recover because it was a huge injury. So I think 91, it was great. 92, he was just like, all right, I'm done with this.
Yeah, he was just like starting more games.
I need to become like the receiver, and I think it was like 3 or 4 games in, their main receiver got injured. Yeah,
Mervin Fernandez in 92 got hurt. I did want to say, though, in 91, he did make the Pro Bowl as a punt returner which is it's very rare you see, especially even in that area, your best players on special teams. You know, like your most.
But you know what? That's Al Davis Raiders if I've ever seen it.
That is totally Al Davis Raiders. We'll talk about him a little bit later. But 93, that is his first season. He has a little more competency at quarterback with Jeff Hostetler. And now he's the team's number one. He's finally rose all the way to the top of the depth chart for the Raiders and starts probably a decade's worth of some of the best wide receiver play in the league.
Well, so this is coming off. So his rookie season, I think he played 15 games, but started, 3. Obviously, he gets injured first game next season, so he played 1 game. The next couple of seasons, he starts, I think, like 4 or 5 games, but plays like 15, 16.
Yeah, by the end of 92, he's starting.
But, yeah, end of 92, 93, and then for like the rest of his career, he literally plays 15 games or 16 games, starts 16 games.
Oh, yeah.
He's never injured again.
No.
He is the most consistent. He literally, doesn't miss a game
Looks
or
like
a
that
down.
doctor's wait and see attitude really worked for him.
It was ridiculous.
I've never seen this before, Tim.
Well, you know what? We're just going to wait and see. And then it worked out. So
93 makes the Pro Bowl again. 80 catches, almost 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, 465 punt return yards. He's still returning punts.
Yep.
A touchdown. They end up getting a wild card. They beat the Broncos. And then he got a TD in that game, and he has a TD in their divisional loss to the Bills, which is, this pretty good. You're thinking the Raiders are going to, do something. I did read in March of 94, though, after the year.
I was going to see if you were going to bring this up.
Bring it up. No, bring it up, Chris. This is because where his career could have gone.
He's a free agent.
Yeah.
And the Broncos are coming in pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So they're coming in with a pretty good deal, and the Raiders match it. And so he ends up staying.
Which is like, could you imagine him with Elway?
And that's literally what people were saying was just like, I can't imagine those years of those Broncos teams.
Because Timmy's he's only in his late 20s
now.
He's 28. You get to join that Denver. And Shanahan, the guy that drafted you in Los Angeles, is going to be the new coach a year later. Oh, my God.
Yeah, so it was because a lot of people felt like he really should have went. But he felt like he was a Raider. So,
which is crazy because he's the most non-Raider player.
I love that so much.
He's so soft-spoken.
That's why he's a Raider.
Quiet.
That's why he's Mr. Raider.
He would never get in a knife fight in the parking lot. So 94, even better season.
So he stays. Yeah, so he stays with him.
89 grabs, over 1,300 yards, 9 touchdowns, and just leads the NFL in punt return. Not even Jerry Rice is doing that shit on special teams.
No,
I just want to bring that up.
I agree.
Good. Making the Pro Bowl again. 95 and 96. This is when Hostetler starts getting hurt, and the quarterback situation keeps.
And this is what I mean. They They just keep rotating and rotating and.
Vince Evans, weren't you drafted in the 70s? Sure was.
He literally, keeps putting up those numbers. So.
He had 19 touchdowns combined in those 2 years, almost 2,500 yards. What the hell?
Killing it.
Oh my God, Billy Joe Hobart is starting at quarterback. Things are not
He's smoking on the sideline.
that was not written down in your plans for success.
So, and this is what people were saying. So, say he fucking goes to the Broncos in '94 instead of staying with all of these has-beens.
They're not even has-beens. They were never was.
That's what I'm saying. It's such a crazy because he literally, it was up to him.
Well,
Same deals.
No, since the Raiders match, it's restricted free agency.
Oh, he was restricted?
So, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, that's the only time it can happen.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But regardless, you know, you're going back.
That would have been awesome.
Oh, God, that would have been ooh. 97, Jeff George is there to throw long bombs and care less than Jay Cutler.
Sure.
They go 4-12, but he led the league in catches with 104. He's like Marvin Harrison without Peyton Manning. This is what Marvin Harrison's career would be if he played anywhere but Indianapolis.
But this is literally, and he kind of said this where he was just like, well, what was it like playing for the Raiders in that time? And he was just like every other team I ever played for. Like,
Oh, God.
there was like
Just so much dysfunction.
and you're just like, oh yeah, you played for losing teams your whole career.
Like,
It was so sad. He was just like, oh no, it was just the same, you know.
and the worst is they clutch onto him like grim death.
Oh,
and
jeez.
probably guilt the shit out of him into staying. Like,
Yep.
You're all we have, Tim.
You're all we have.
And he's probably such a nice guy that he's like, all right, fine. He had over 1,400 yards for a 4-12 team. God. 98, he makes Pro Bowl again. 98, 99.
Is this where Gruden comes in?
He comes in 99.
In 99,
Gruden comes
okay.
in. 15 touchdowns between the 2 years, almost 2,500. So basically, it's 8 to 10 touchdowns, over at that, like 1,200 yards.
Yep.
80 to 100 catches every year.
And he plays
Like
every
clockwork,
game.
yeah.
That's what I mean. Off of that 1 year that he got injured, and then the next two,
Zero
where they
off
were.
the field problems.
Yep.
Like,
He's like literally the receiver you want.
maybe he's addicted to like losing, but being really good.
Ooh, I like that.
I like that addiction. Like, you know,
But
big
being
fish,
the
small
best.
pond.
Yep.
Yeah. So, 99, Gruden comes in.
Okay.
He comes in. This is before he's got his email account, sending out those wonderful emails to Roger Goodell, as we all found out about.
He didn't realize we weren't allowed to say those words anymore.
Yeah, well, he's been on his bus, inviting those prospects in and doing Bang Bros stuff to him. I guarantee you one person was touched on those John Gruden buses. That's all I'm
I
saying.
guarantee one person was banged on that bus.
And I'm guessing it was Russell Wilson. Anyway,
All right.
John Gruden comes in, 99, and he brings in Rich Gannon, who was quarterback for another guy like this, Chris Carter.
Oh, yeah.
Back in Minnesota. But this is when Rich Gannon has his late career renaissance.
He was 33, I think, because Gannon said, so I made one Pro Bowl, and it was when I played for the Raiders, and I got to throw to Timmy Brown. And I was like,
He won
that's
the MVP.
awesome.
Yeah.
Because it's such a realistic like assessment. He was just like, yeah, we just kept throwing the ball to him. It was like, oh yeah, that's true.
What's it? He's like a Boondock Saints. Tim Brown's sort of like 7-Eleven. Lights might not always be on, but he's always open.
It's always open.
So he's not right, Rambo.
He really had an ability to get open because that was something that almost all the quarterbacks that worked with him, that he just like had an extra step on people.
Well, it's not like he was a huge guy, but he had enough size. He was fast because he ran a sub 4.4, but he also had that agility, which just like, and because he's smart, obviously, he knows which of those traits can get him open against certain players.
Yep.
So, I mean,
And he sees them almost going too hard one way. Like his reaction time is really great because that's what they were saying is like his best routes were almost like open to him. Either he would like cut inside or cut outside. And it was just like he would almost react to like, where are you going to go? All right, I'm going that way. Like
his game was very similar to Marvin Harrison.
Yes.
Like when you go back and watch him, you're like, man, he was really good. You just never heard about him as much as he should because the Raiders were dog shit.
Yep.
2000, they win the AFC West. Almost just over 1,100 yards and 11 touchdowns. They go all the way to the AFC title game at home, and
Lose
that was an ass blast.
to the fucking
That
Ravens.
Ravens defense just. I think they put Bobby Hoying in that game. Gannon got hurt. It was
Gannon got
bad.
hurt.
Yeah.
And he said it. If Gannon had stayed in, they might have won. But even that, looking at that Ravens defense, you're like, I don't
No.
think so.
No,
Like, I'm not trying to be a dick. I just because he
And
even
that's
said,
not us saying nice things about Trent Dilfer either. That defense was that good.
yes,
It was just mean.
it was just mean.
2001, they win the AFC West.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Rice joins him.
I know. I
And
thought
then
that was-
Oakland makes another Pro Bowl. 91 grabs with Jerry Rice in your lineup, too. That's pretty good. Almost 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns. Timmy finally experiences some postseason success here a little bit more. They beat the Jets in the wild card round
Mm-hmm.
because, everyone does it.
How do you not beat the Jets?
And then they go up to Foxborough for a game in the divisional round, which will forever be remembered in NFL history. And
Because it's the fuck rule.
what's the name of the game, Chris?
It's the tuck. God, I can't even because I saw Gruden talking about it, and he just goes,
It's not a fumble. It's not an incomplete pass. It's such
and
a
he just
fucking
goes,
fumble.
and he just goes, it is such a ridiculous rule that if somebody suggested it now, you would be laughed out of. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So imagine the tuck rule was never a rule, whatever.
And it's like a rule from the old-timey days,
That's-
too, because
it-
no one paid attention. It was just assumed that was a fumble.
Yes.
Because no one would be moronic enough to write a rule to help goddamn an uncircumcised penis.
It's so bad that, obviously, they kind of got screwed on that one.
That would have won. The Charles Woodson sack wins the game.
Yep.
Wins the game for Oakland. They probably beat Pittsburgh the following week, and who knows if they beat the Rams.
Yeah.
So, poor Timmy.
I know.
Poor Timmy. That year, I did want to bring up, he became the oldest person to score a touchdown on special teams, which
Yep.
I think is cool.
Yeah.
Another punt return for Timmy.
Was he 35? 34? Something like that?
35, yeah.
Almost, that's awesome.
88-yard punt return for a man.
Yep.
Who are those pleasant old men? So 2002, as I brought up, Rich Gannon wins the MVP for
Yep.
the Raiders. Timmy Brown is doing Timmy Brown things. 81 grabs, 930 yards. They're the top seed in the AFC. They're looking good. They've added Jerry Porter to their receiver room. Gruden is gone, though. This year.
Gruden got traded,
Gruden got traded.
which is an interesting Al Davis little spider web.
Oh, this will be an interesting spiderweb of
He
stuff that
gets
Timmy
traded
says.
to Tampa Bay,
For draft picks.
the Bucks, for nothing. What? Draft picks? All right.
Well, draft picks that Al Davis decided to light on fire because
There you
at that
go.
point, he didn't know what he was doing.
There you go.
He didn't know what he was doing.
So Gruden's gone. He's at Tampa Bay, and Tim Brown said that because they essentially just played the exact same system, that
The offense was still intact.
Yes.
The system itself was, and a lot of the coaching staff was still there.
yes, that's what he said. So it wasn't like a huge turnover.
No. Unfortunately for them, despite beating the Jets, like everyone
love
beats
that.
the Jets in the divisional round, they go and spank Tennessee in the AFC title game at home.
And
Timmy's
they're
going
looking
to his first.
good.
Dude, they were humming.
This is-
they were on offense, and their defense was creating turnovers. They were humming, dude.
Yes.
They were the best team in the AFC that
Yes.
year. Like, far and away. They get to the Super Bowl.
And who are they playing?
And they're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And
goddamn Pirates.
it's the Pirate Bowl. It's the Gruden Bowl.
It's the Gruden Bowl.
And since head coach Bill Callahan decides to change the game plan 2 days instead of running against Tampa's, which is really your only hope because they were the best defense in the NFL that year, running at their smaller of stature defensive line with your bigger backs like Wheatley and Crockett. 2 days before the game, they went for a more pass-based.
It was a crock of
offense.
shit. I'll tell you what, because Tim Brown is a complete professional.
Yeah.
I saw him interview on this, and he was just like, the only thing, I'm not saying we would have won, but really the thing going into it was changing the game plan 2 days before because everybody was like, wait, what?
You know what also didn't help? They didn't change the audibles. Who wrote the audibles? John Gruden. Guess who's running the audibles and offensive system in practice being Rich Gannon, LARPing as the 2002 MVP. The man who sent those emails.
So good.
Sorry. How stupid could you be? That's something the Jets, I don't even think the Jets would do that.
It's like when New England was videotaping, they're just like, hold on, did he videotape? It's just like, no, he made those up and then left, and then you guys kept them. It was like, oh, that's how he knew all the audibles? All right, well, I guess we're stupid.
God.
Yeah, the Raiders really screwed themselves over in that Super Bowl. Tim Brown, to his credit, even said he was just like, it just wasn't meant to be, which is his attitude.
He was just very critical. A lot of
I was going to say he was very
questions.
critical on the steps taken, which obviously they weren't insured to win, but the coaching staff almost did everything to ensure that they wouldn't win.
Like, I don't know if you've seen those NFL films from that game, but it's John Lynch going, we know exactly what they're doing every single time. Like, just like we drew it up in practice.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Make it stop. So he ends his age 36 season without a ring, comes back for one more year. The Raiders are pretty crappy.
Yeah, they're done at this point.
Yep. And then by 2004, he's out the door. He's out the door in Oakland, and he feels like he was forced out.
He was a little bit bummed. New coaching staff comes in. They ask him to take a lesser role.
How Norv Turner keeps getting work is that just no.
He says no because the other receivers aren't to his caliber.
Yeah.
Like, he was like, I've been on this team. These receivers aren't. So why would I take a lesser role? They show him the door. He says it was a bummer. There's some stuff we could talk about that he said about Al Davis.
Yes,
I'm just saying.
there's some stuff we could talk about.
And he makes the decision to meet up with our boy Gruden again.
Our pal Grudes. Yep, out in Tampa.
Yep.
He's a backup receiver. That year, I did want to bring up September 27th, 2004. His first game back at Oakland gets his 100th touchdown reception. Which
I
had to
really
be good.
I was going to say I really liked that, but I bet if you're a real Raiders fan, you're like, that should have been in our jersey.
Oh, yeah.
I don't care if it was in our stadium. He should have done it in our jersey.
I don't think anyone's played more games as a Raider than him.
Yeah, I think
Which is ridiculous. Which is,
he was the only player to come over from L.A. He was the last player to come over from L.A. to be in Oakland.
Which
like, that's how long he
just
played.
in the NFL.
Yes.
That's
how...
From a bygone era of 20 years
That's
ago.
how long he played for them. So that's what everybody was saying, because he kind of came in as the role that he was going to do for the Raiders, but he knew how fucking bad they were. And he was just like, why would I take a lesser role? What are we doing?
I want more money.
Yes.
Deservedly so. So 2005, he signs a one-day contract to retire as a Raider. And, well, the stats speak for themselves, Chris.
Yes.
I mean, when he retired, he's number 2 in everything to Jerry Rice.
I think he's number 3 now.
Well, yeah.
But, like, literally, he was the second greatest receiver when he was retired.
Imagine if he played with Joe Montana and Steve Young. Just saying. Not to take away anything from Jerry Rice, but, like, when you see those quarterbacks Tim Brown played with, you're like,
Imagine if 94 went a different way. That's the only time that,
Elway.
yeah.
Jeez Louise. So 1,094 catches, 14,934 yards, 100 touchdowns, 3 punt return touchdowns, 1 kick return touchdowns, over 4,500 combined yards in each, or with both of them. That's ridiculous. 9 Pro Bowls, 1990s All-Decade team, and this is the amazing stat. 9 straight 1,000-yard seasons. That's almost a decade's worth of you going out there every 16 games and being a Pro Bowler, essentially.
And 10 straight seasons of him having 75 catches or more. So I'm just saying, like, he was probably the most reliable, best receiver for that era. You know what I mean? For the whatever, late 90s.
You bring up 1990s, early 2000s receivers, like you do a top 10. Does he even come up? Because people probably forget him.
That's what I mean.
Which is sad, because how good he was.
Because he was so reliable on such a bad team, which is literally his entire career, high school, He was on a team that nobody was scouting because they were horrible. Notre Dame in their own, like, their decade of being horrible.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Which is such a weird ass thing. And he was amazing. Almost stopped playing because he wasn't getting time or confidence. Goes to this Raider team, gets one Super Bowl, and they really screwed him on it.
Yeah, they really did. They pushed the knife in. They should have ran the annexation of Puerto Rico in that because he was in Little Giants. They should have ran it. Grudes would have had no idea what
Could
to
you
do.
imagine, though, if they didn't trade Grudes? Like, if that team with Gruden went? Do you know what I mean? Like,
So if this is 2002 and they keep Gruden, you're not forced Bill Callahan. You're not forced with Norv Turner and just a decade's worth of garbage until you get Derek Carr and Khalil Mack. I mean,
the trade for Gruden really screwed them over more ways than
if you're
one.
thinking anyone who could compete with New England in that era because you have a smart head coach, you would have had to find someone to replace Gannon.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Eventually.
He was old and he was,
Because his body gave out by 2004.
For sure, yeah.
But with Gruden, you have a better shot.
Gruden, yeah. Just way better. Especially obviously in the Super Bowl where Tampa Bay is,
They know every
everything.
play. And they're not even cheating like New England. They're just like, Coach, what was that?
Exactly.
I don't know. They're going to do this. Don't worry about it.
Yep. They just start yelling it out. They're just like, how do they know? Oh, yeah, shit.
Oh, yeah, we changed the game plan 2 days before the game. Anyway, Tim Brown, like a consummate professional, a Pro Football Hall of Famer in 2015, which is way overdue because of the log jam at receiver. But Timmy Brown, touchdown Timmy.
Heisman Trophy. Yeah.
Right. Another Golden Dome Heisman like Paul Horning.
Yep.
That we did. So we got another one in there.
Thank you.